I tell you what, after a shitty day I had, that nap and dinner really turned things around.
I'm glad. Oh, Birdie, Faith Scott. We'll see who else comes along. Probably one of my other subs. I'm hoping anyway. We'll see what happens. Can somebody confirm that they can hear me as soon as it becomes obvious? Hi, Ann. You can hear me, right? Okay. I'm just going to warn everybody. I've been out to dinner this evening, and I've had 2 or 3 glasses of wine. I'm not sure which. So I'm pretty toasty right now because I drank really good Italian Tuscan wine. So you're all warned way in advance that I'm probably going to be a little bit looser with my mouth today than in normal capacities. And by the way, open topic. So the way open topic works is you can ask literally any question you want, and I will freely answer that question. And so in asking that question, I will, especially if it's an area that is specific to something that I know about. So if it's a trans question or a psychology question or a philosophy question or a druid question or a political question, you can certainly ask anyone or a variety of those, and I will happily attempt to answer it as honestly and purely as I can. You would be warned, however, that my answers are usually entertaining by normal standards. So, you were warned away in advance that anyway. So please feel free to ask any question that you would like, and no matter how inane or how complex that question is, especially if it is something that I know a bit about. And there are a few things for readers of the publication. You should easily know about what it is that I know. Yes, and I think that that's very possible. I think that that's very possible. Very, very possible. When will that happen? I'm not sure.
You sure you want me on here tonight, honey? I look like total shit.
And I went out to Elaine, I went out to an Italian restaurant, and I've had half a bottle of red wine.
Did it help any?
Yeah, yeah, it did. It did most certainly. It did most certainly. But I'm feeling no pain right now. So anyway, so the answer to your question is, does Florida actually pass a law to separate transgender children from their parents? Laura Westbrook. I so I don't think so. I think they're threatening that. But let me confirm. So here's from the ACLU assertion. There was a bill that criminalized doctors for providing gender affirming care to minors and allows a non supportive parent to have the upper hand in child's custody disputes in divorce proceedings. Oh, wow. We have a new person. A new person joined. Yay. I have to be on my best behavior now. I can't believe somebody actually accepted an invite to come into the live session. That's okay. I'm willing to try again, Laura, if you would like. As Elaine will tell you, we have a very family-oriented live session medium here. We all love each other and we all try to take care of each other, even if I'm the maven of the publication. There have been attempts to pass laws that would separate trans kids and their parents or criminalize gender affirming care. In a way that would, oh gosh, Laura, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, subscribe to the publication. Here, let me tell her before she drops off. Subscribe.
I know I switched from Google Fiber to AT&T recently, and I had to switch to broadband because AT&T doesn't offer fiber in the hood where I live, at least not yet. I saw an AT&T fiber truck here the other day, so hopefully. But yeah,
wow,
I didn't have any issues.
Wow, bitch, do you live in the hood?
I live in the hood.
Do you live in the hood?
I do.
Do you live on the corner of Stab Whitey and Kill Whitey?
Well, no. I live in between the Fairfax Industrial District of Kansas City, Kansas, like where the GM plant is, and the hood. And I live in a housing cooperative that's been around since the 40s. So, and we were actually sued in 1979 because they called it the White Island because we wouldn't let people in, So,
right.
Which is, it's funny now because we're becoming majority Hispanic. So, but I lived there.
Linda, how the hell are you?
Hi, Linda.
Hello, doing okay? We just got back from shopping, so.
Oh, no worries. No worries. I'm going to warn you, Linda. I went out to my favorite Italian restaurant with my spousal person and my parents who are visiting because my child graduated from high school today. As you were no doubt aware. And so we went out to my favorite Italian place and I drank a bunch of red wine. So I'm really fucking toasty.
Red wine.
Oh, don't put UB40. Don't put fucking UB40 in my head, please.
Hey, look at Wendy. It's my day off, so here's edibles and mudslides.
Oh my god!
You bitches, I can't drink. I can't drink because of the meds I'm on. I can't use anything because I'm subject to random drug testing. You bitches.
What? Are you kidding me?
Oh, well, I work for a big corporation, so it's okay.
You can't smoke weed.
I don't get random drug tests.
I'm sorry. I heard.
Well, it's actually legal in Missouri, which is about 5 miles away. In Kansas, it's not. So, because there's dispensaries all over Missouri.
Toto, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore.
Yeah, I know. Well, I moved to
One thing I
Kansas in
love about Washington.
1997. I don't plan on moving back to Missouri. Thank you very much. I lived the first
No,
32 years of my life there, and that was long enough.
no. All right, so Linda, tonight, open topic. You can talk about whatever the fuck it is you want. You can ask any fucking question you want, and I will answer it. Yeah, Technolope, completely.
When are you going to do the thing on the transgender police officer?
Oh, I've got that article. I actually did a lot of deep research there, and I found like 2 more accounts about her. And so, like, I started writing it, and I got like 2,600 words in, and I was like, I feel like there has to be more here. So I went and did some searching, and I found a couple of more different accounts, and I read through those, and then I started writing again, and I got up to like 5,500 words. So then it was like, okay, now this is. I was already serious about publishing that article. It is now a grade more serious than that, and so I'm actually going to push that one out like probably Saturday or Sunday. I want Miranda to read over it to make sure that I'm not fucking anything up. Sorry, I've been drinking, so I mean, just you can't expect fluidity to come out of my mouth.
Well,
Spodioti, baby.
I'm partaking too.
God damn it.
All right.
What the fuck?
So you're not a country singer either. All right, whatever.
No.
Drinking wine, Spodioti.
No, the closest I got to country was Johnny Cash. I wouldn't even really call Johnny Cash country, but
I have an uncle. He's gone now. He was a country music. He was a songwriter in Nashville, and he wrote for. Probably the most popular. He wrote for Highway 101. Yeah, that song "Whiskey If You Were a Woman." He was one of the writers on that song, and
I'm
I can't
sorry.
remember what else.
I just have to ask. And readers, you guys can tell me this one way or the other, or ladies, you can tell me. Why the fuck do country music people write music that's so fucking depressing that after listening to it, you literally want to go and jump off a goddamn bridge?
Don't look at me, man. The only
like,
country,
oh, my
the only
wife
country
left
I
me.
like is Katie Lang.
Oh, my wife left me. My dog ran away.
Yeah.
My truck won't start. What the hell?
Well, anyway, my uncle's crowning achievement as a recording artist was he wrote and performed a song called "Here Comes Fatty Claus," and if you go to YouTube, it's on there. I promise. But it's not for the kiddies. So
It's not for the kiddies.
no, I'll try and remember and post it as a note on my Substack for you. But yes.
All right, so here's the thing. I'm gonna do this, and you guys are gonna hate me for doing this, but
You keep threatening that I'm going to hate you. It hasn't happened yet. Hi, Rick.
let me hold on. I gotta find it because I favorited the shit out of it, and I mean it was really fucking hysterical. Shit, where did I put it? Keep talking. I'm gonna find it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I like Katie Lang when she did country,
Well,
and I like
that's the thing about that's the thing
I
about
like Loretta Lynn. I like women country artists because they're not always singing about I went out last night, got drunk, and broke into somebody's car, and now I'm in jail, and it's your fault. You know, that's a guy country. But or Dolly Parton.
Okay, okay, here we go. Here we go. So I'm gonna do this, and you bitches are gonna hate me, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
Okay.
All right, so here we go.
I ain't gay, but I do gay stuff. Like fucking dudes in the back of my truck. A little less slap don't mean I'm queer. I just suck some dick when I drink my beer. I ain't nothing wrong with a little squeeze. It don't mean shit if you're on your knees. I love my guns and I have my rights. And I fuck dudes on Friday nights.
I know. I gotta know what this is. I gotta know what that is.
Look, it's a TikTok. I'll send it to you.
I don't have TikTok.
Oh, okay. I'll find YouTube of it.
Thank you.
And you'll you'll hate me
Oh my
forever
God,
because, like me, you won't be able to resist listening
Rick,
to it.
where the fuck did you get that? Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. Oh, I got one for you.
Okay.
I got a like on a Substack post today from Susie Bright.
Really?
Do you know who Susie Bright is?
I do not.
Well, she is a writer, and she in the early years of the internet, she had her website. It was really I haven't heard the name in forever, and I see this note that she liked one of my posts, and I was like, holy shit, these Susie Bright. So yeah, I'm still a little starstruck.
Tekalo, why are you saying that about me? I'm sorry, I'm really drunk.
Red wine.
Hey, Wendy. I do have a bit of a musical background if you see my wall back there.
Oh my God. Oh, you have strings.
Oh, look at your guitars.
Oh, you have
Oh my
strings.
God. Like that chicken Pink Floyd. Are those your guitars?
Look, I'm not to gush, but I will tell you, Linda, that in a storage container somewhere, I have storage space, and in one of them, both of my Jackson Signature Series guitars, and my BC Rich and PV Signature Series guitars are in storage. So, but holy shit, that looks like you've got like a 55 Gibson behind.
Yeah, I used to play. I lost you there.
Yeah, it's probably me. But those are beautiful, Linda. You should do you know how to play? That's a stupid question. I told you I'm drunk.
I'm going to switch to the computer here so maybe I can hear better.
Okay. You're cutting out.
I'm going to switch to the computer here so maybe I can hear better. Yeah, my phone doesn't want to connect here at the house too well.
Mute your phone.
Yeah, my phone doesn't want to connect here at the house too well.
Yeah, mute your phone. You're echoing. Yeah, there's a little mute button on there. You should get it.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, would it help if it was just you two? Should I jump off?
No.
No, I just, for some reason, I'm having trouble with connectivity with my phone at the house.
That's weird.
Right. But you know how to play, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, cool. I do too, I don't do it much anymore, but I know how to play. Um, I know the 4 required chords to be a rock star.
I thought there were only 3.
No.
I don't know. I don't
Well,
play guitar, so.
look,
Mhm.
Kurt Cobain got by on like 2 chords, and that was it. I don't know how the fuck
Mhm.
that happened, but maybe it was all the heroin he was doing.
I was just gonna say the drugs probably helped. Yes.
Yeah. Metaphor, really, it's 3. Okay, look, I mean, I don't know. I knew the 4 chords that made me enough to be a metal and heavy metal and rock musician. So,
Well,
Metaphor, I'm also going to warn
if you
you,
want to be
I've
a
been
Christian
drinking
rock
tonight.
star.
Yeah, Metaphor, I'm just going to warn you, I've been drinking tonight, so I'm in a particularly ripe mood. You will
Rick, why do you make me feel so fun?
Bob Dylan. You know,
Mm.
I think Bob Dylan was the greatest musician of all time.
As long as he kept his mouth shut.
Yeah, I was just gonna
Shut
say,
up.
great writer,
No.
terrible
Okay, look,
singer.
I can't believe no, you can't say that.
Mm.
His voice was amazing before 1972.
Yeah, what was that all about? We went off the gold standard, and all of a sudden, Bob Dylan can't sing. What the fuck? Okay.
Hey, knocking on heaven's door. Hey.
Yeah.
No, Metaphor, he fucking won the Nobel Prize for Literature because he was such a brilliant lyricist.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
and then he won
I agree
a
with
prize.
that.
Yeah,
I just don't
okay.
like to hear him sing.
How the fuck can you argue with the music ability of Bob Dylan? How can you argue with the musical ability of Bob Dylan? I think, well, I don't know. You know, who the fuck cares? All right, so next question. Oh.
Hi, Helen.
So to answer your previous question, Linda, yeah, I did some more extensive research about your person, and so I've got like a good 5,200 words, and so what I'm gonna do is actually I'm gonna double post the queer history article on Saturday or Sunday, and it's going to include that one. I will tell everybody
Okay.
that the one coming on, I believe, Sunday is the Plato and Sappho article, which numerous people are going to argue with me about. Because basically, I don't know if anybody understands this, but Plato was gay as fuck.
No surprise there.
No, right. He was more gay than Sappho from the Isle of Lesbos was gay.
Now that's pretty damn gay.
Really. Because without Sappho from the Isle of Lesbos, we would probably not have lesbians. Or we would, just not in the classical sense. So anyway, so Susie Bright gave you a positive comment. I think that that's actually pretty cool. You should. What's her domain? Do you know, Elaine?
No.
Is it like SusieBright.inc or something like that? I think
I don't know what. I mean, you can find her on Substack. She's just under Susie Bright when she's got the little check mark to show that it's really her.
Oh, right. Okay, so I'm going to look that up right now, actually.
Yeah, she's written a number of books, and one of them was from, I don't know, the early 90s. And I remember it was like Susie Bright's Lesbian Sex Universe, something provocative like that. And I remember being in the feminist bookstore back then and seeing that and thinking, oh, Okay. The name was memorable. The title was memorable. I hadn't thought about her in a long time. So,
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm gonna find this person. That's Susie Bright with a Z, right?
no, I think it's an S. SUSIE.
No, I got her. Fight like hell for the living.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's her. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm gonna read that shit. Okay. Anyway, so, did I miss a question?
No,
Oh, by the
bathrobe
way,
guy's
hi,
here.
bathrobe guy. Thank you for joining. Thank you very much for joining. Okay. So, all right. I didn't miss any questions. But open questions.
Well, no,
Ask
I
your
have a question.
Okay, shoot, go for it.
What the fuck is going on? Swear to God, it's like it's been what? How many hundred and some?
Oh God.
It feels like 100 years. Just
It
like
feels like 100 years, but it's only been 118 days. Well, let's be very clear. So the budget bill passed today
Right.
by one vote.
Yeah, I did see that by one vote.
By one vote, it passed.
And that's just
I
the
don't know how
House.
the fuck, but
It has to still go through the Senate. And
yeah, and what I read about what's happened in the Senate is the Senate has chewed it up and won't.
that's what I'm hearing too.
Yeah, the Senate's not gonna. The Senate's gonna send it back. And here's the thing: even if they take the nuclear option and try to force a 50% plus one, I don't think the Republicans are gonna do it.
Well,
So
I just keep hoping maybe this is the thing. Maybe this is the thing that'll finally wake these assholes up.
I mean,
There's too many poison pills in it.
Yeah, I sort of hope that you're right. You know, because I don't. I just don't. Yeah, I agree. This is all a form of more karma for those bitches.
Yeah, well, there's some of them have been running their fucking karma in the red zone for a little too long. You know what I mean?
Well, here's the thing. Okay, so the big, beautiful budget bill basically passed with one vote, 2015 to 2014.
Yeah, it was a squeaker, kind of like the election.
So that suggests there are Republicans that are not in line to vote for it. And so unless they drastically change it, then no, it's not gonna happen.
Well, and did you see that Amy Coney Barrett did not vote on that?
She recused herself over the Catholic school deal, and that deep sixed it.
Yeah,
her recusal.
Yeah, she said ahead of time she was going to recuse herself on that.
Yeah, well, and see, that suggests to me that Coney Barrett is much more of a constitutionalist than she is a Republican. Yeah. And I think, I think Donald Trump severely regrets.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
Yeah, getting her in. Okay. So Rick, the big budget.
This is about the school in Oklahoma.
So the thing that we're talking about is, there's a religious charter school case that went up to SCOTUS over whether or not a religious charter school would be allowed to happen or not. And
it was a Catholic school.
Yeah, it was a Catholic school. And so, what eventually happened, it got up to SCOTUS, and Coney Barrett recused herself from forming an opinion, dissenting or assenting on it, because she's Catholic, and I know why. And then, it would be a situation where it would be a religious charter school where the charter school would take public funding, which can't happen because separation of church and state. And they voted, and it was a dead tie. And a dead tie in SCOTUS means it's done. And so that deep six that entire effort. Yeah, it just killed the entire effort entirely.
Did my heart good to see that.
Both of us.
I mean, look, okay, I'm just gonna say something, and I'm drunk, and I've been drinking, and I've had a lot of sugar tonight, so that means I'm gonna say this, but fuck the hard right wing Christians. God damn it. I mean, look, you have all of your shit. You have tax free exempt status. You make billions
I'm not
of
gonna
dollars.
fuck them.
Just shut the fuck up. I'm probably gonna lose readers for saying that, but look, you want to have your cake and eat it too? Fuck off. I don't come crying your shit to me. You know, just you can fuck right off.
And then when you get over there, go farther and fuck off some more.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. Brioche. Oh. Oh. Oh.
So
Hey,
was it a good wine at least, Wendy? You're not like, this wasn't Mad Dog 2020 or anything.
No. It was really good. No, so here's the deal. So there's this cute little Italian place that's about a mile and a half away from where I live, and as is probably not already obvious to you, I did my face up tonight, which I never do. But my parents were in town for my child's graduation, and so right place, and so it's this hole in the wall Italian joint, and they serve really, really good fucking food. And so the reason that I go there is because they serve a bottle of Super Tuscan wine. So do you understand what Super Tuscan wine is? You don't? Okay, great. Now I get to tell you. I'm a huge fucking wine snob. I'm a wine snob to a level. So basically, here's what happens. So a Super Tuscan is a Tuscan wine where they use Tuscan, like Italian grapes, Grand Brunei, whatever. But on top of making the wine, a portion of the wine is the Italian Tuscan grape, but then they mix the wine with a Bordeaux class wine. So like a Merlot or a Cabernet Sauvignon. And so it's a blend. Super Tuscan wines are a blend. And it's really hit or miss. One Super Tuscan does not taste the same as another because of the variable nature of the blend. But the blend is super, super tasty. It is incredibly delicious to drink. And the place that I go to on like Tuesday or Thursday nights, they do their half off bottle night deal. I didn't do it tonight, but I love that wine so much. It's the UNT IT cask wine, and I could get a bottle of it for half price, which full price is like 60-70 bucks versus the 35 that I would pay to get it for half, and then I'd be drunk for 3 days, and I'd be in a really happy fucking state of mind between green leafy interactions and drinking red wine, which is what, yeah, right, because that's how I stay fucking sane.
I had a fling with a wine snob once. He was from New Zealand.
Okay.
He was from New Zealand, and her favorite wine was Robert Mondavi Cabernet Sauvignon, the Reserve, not the Coastal. Whatever. So I drank a lot of wine when I was around her, but I, I was a cocktail girl myself in the days when I did drink. I can't anymore. So
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that sounds like my speed.
actually have a question for you, Elaine.
yes,
What's your funniest lesbian story?
my funniest lesbian story.
Yeah, because I have a really good one, and I'll share it with everybody if you want to hear it.
Well, I'd have to think about it.
Okay. So have I told you guys the story of Tallulah's?
Tallulah's.
Tallulah's. If I've told you that story, you will know what that name means.
And in black girls. And what they did 20 years later to thank him is incredible. Thomas.
So here's the deal. My family, members of my family owned a beauty salon in Atlanta.
Mhm.
And so my family members owned the entire building that the salon was in. But here was the deal. The salon was in the back of the building, and in the front of the building, they rented it out to local establishments. You can drive by the building now, and it's a Big Ten tire. My family sold the building years ago, but my three great aunts all ran the place, and in '84, they rented the front of the building to a girl named Sarah, who opened a bar called Tallulah's.
Okay.
And when I visited the family beautician salon, you know, that was basically like 50, 60, 70, and 80-year-old catty women that I didn't want to listen to because I was young. And so Sarah, the owner of Tallulah's, would let me sit in her business office and drink Cokes, and I'd read my comic books and shit. And I was a happy kid.
Okay.
So I walked through that place hundreds of thousands of times. And I never made the connection about what that place was. Now, I know you know what that means, but let me get to the end of the story. So, around the corner from the building was a Crystal, White Castle burger joint. And when I didn't want to drink Cokes and read my comics or whatever, I was hungry, I would go over to the Crystal. Well, the manager of the Crystal
A
knew
couple
my
of gut
family.
bombers.
Huh?
Get you a couple of gut bombers.
Yeah, right. So the manager of the Crystal knew my family, and he would give me free cheeseburgers or whatever. And so I would go in there. Well, there was a time that I would go in there, and there was a girl who would come in there, and her name was Rhonda, and she would sit in there and eat food and then leave. And so I started going in there enough, she would kind of just, oh, hey kid, I was a young kid, whatever. And so there was always conversation there. So years later, I was a manager over an information security team at a level 2, level 3, tier 3, tier 2, tier 3 data provider. And we hired a security engineer to work for us, and her name was Rhonda. And so for like a year, Rhonda and I went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth over this. We knew each other, and I didn't know where the fuck from. And for people that know me, I have an eidetic memory. It is very difficult for me to forget shit. And I always remember faces and names. Amongst the myriad of other things that I can photographically recall. And so one day I go into work and Rhonda was like, I figured it out. And I was like, oh, okay, fuck. What is it? And she said, do you remember a bar in Atlanta in the 80s called Tallulah's. And I said, yeah, I remember that bar. My family owned that building. And I used to go into the Crystal. And she was like, oh, I used to go into the Crystal. And I went, oh, you're that Rhonda? And she was like, yeah, you were the little kid, right? And I was like, yeah, I was the fucking little kid or whatever. And she was like, that was the heyday. And I was like, what heyday? She was like, it was 1984. That literally was the second lesbian bar in Atlanta. And by the way, you went to Tallulah's because that's where all the femmes, high femmes, and lipstick lesbians went. So if you wanted a hot chick, that's where you went to go pick up a hot chick. And Rhonda told me she was the DJ or whatever. And I was like, now, the hilarious thing about that is I walked through that place hundreds of times and I never made that connection at all. By the way, when that bar was full of people and it went the fuck over my head, and I was like, I didn't see that. Maybe because I was, I was an innocent teenager or whatever. I didn't really care, and
Yeah.
But the funny part about that was later, Rhonda, like, we went out for drinks one night or whatever, and there were like a crew of people that she knew from that time. And we all went out, and they were like, you were the little kid? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I didn't know or whatever. And they were like, well, we must have thought you were cool because we didn't give you shit about it or whatever. And I was like, no,
Yeah. 1984 was the year I came out. I was 19. I didn't go to any bars because I looked old enough. I could drink in straight bars, but I was too afraid to go into a gay bar. So
what? Why on earth?
I waited until I was 21. Well, because for one thing, if you got carded in a gay bar, you'd be banned from the place. I mean, there was only 2 or 3 lesbian bars in Kansas City at the time. There aren't any now. I mean, women don't really have their own bars anymore. I haven't been in a bar in forever.
I have to say, speaking, take a look. Of course, you were cool.
No, I waited until I was 21, and the first lesbian bar I ever went into was called Birds of a Feather, and it was at 47th and Rainbow in Kansas City, Kansas. And I remember talking to this woman at the bar. Her name was Donna. She had long dark hair. And we talked for quite a while, and she happened to mention that she was 39 years old. And here I was, like, 21. And oh my God, she's elderly. Oh my gosh. But and a couple of years later, I was writing for the Alternate News, which was in Kansas City at the time, was the gay weekly, and I walked into a bar one night, and I mean, I used to go to the men's bars too because I was writing for this paper and I like to kind of keep up on stuff. I walk in there, and the CEO of the place I was working now, or at that time, was all tricked out in drummer gear, standing at the bar. And he'd known about me, obviously, but I had not known about him, and that was just like, oh my gosh. So anyway, that was fun. But yeah, I took a straight friend who was having trouble, uh, with accepting, everything because she'd known me for a long time. I'm like, just go out for a while. You'll see it. I'll introduce you to my friends. They're all normal and everything. We come in there, and she's like, oh my God. And I said, what's the matter? Well, there's all these people. Yeah, it's a bar. Well, they're dancing. And I was like, yeah. There aren't any guys. Yeah. There has to be. It's like, no. Oh, it was so funny. I never did get her to come around. I'm sure she thought I was trying to, seduce her into the fold or whatever. I just wanted her to stop asking me dumb questions. So look
Oh,
at you as the man.
you were trying to de-acosta her.
Mm-hmm.
You trying to pull a
Something like
Mercedes
that.
D'Acosta?
She wasn't
Mercedes
my type.
D'Acosta, like that was her thing. She was like, I can get any woman to leave her man and get into bed
Oh,
with
no, 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 no. No, no. Uh,
Holy
I'm
shit.
sorry, but
Holy shit. Oh my
straight
God.
women suck
How
in bed,
beautiful is
okay?
that? How beautiful is that when a
They're
woman
used to not having
how
to do anything, so they just lie there. It's like, no. If I wanted this shit, I'd go to bed with
beautiful
a
is it
man.
when the woman you love brings you a cold Diet Coke?
Oh my God. Hmm. Anyway,
So
all right, so that was
that's one of my many cool queer stories.
gotcha.
But I agree with you from that perspective that gay spaces here in Atlanta, there is literally only like one, maybe two lesbian queer spaces
Mm-hmm.
that are public. My sister's room is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other one is Tongue and Groove. But, you know, back in the early 2000s or the 90s, there was like 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
So queer spaces have just disappeared. Now, gay space, like gay bars, there's
Mm-hmm.
6 or 7 of those.
Well, I mean, people, men and women in the community mix better than they did back then.
Yeah.
It
So,
seems like.
True.
yeah. So, like,
I
there's a
mean, I never
bar.
had trouble going into the men's bars because I'm, frivolous party girl who likes to dish with the queens. So,
Right.
but I could understand, women wanting but women just don't have the money to keep a women's bar going anymore. The last few that there were in Kansas City,
Okay.
I think the very last one, they had let swingers come in there,
Yeah. Right.
and because they had to keep the fucking doors open somehow. I understand that, but and they'd owned a women's bar in town for a long time, but that just killed it.
Yeah. Rick, to answer your question, yeah, there are gay bars in Atlanta where there's a lot of blending that goes on. So, like for instance, if you go to Felix's, which is over in Ainsley Park, and the Ainsley Park neighborhood of Atlanta has been viscerally gay for a very long time. That
Mhm.
for a long time, Ainsley Park was the gayest neighborhood in Atlanta. And when you walk into Felix's on board game night, I guarantee you, 30% of the people that are in the bar are lesbian women. But lesbian specific bars, no. There's one. And here's what's funny: as a trans woman, I've gone into my sister's room before. And two things happen. One, all the stone butch lesbians hit on me and tell me I have a cute ass and they want to do shit to me or whatever. And then two, the high femme and the femme girls that are in there try to tell me it's a lesbian establishment and I need to get the fuck out.
Please.
And so it's like, look, I'm not trying to threaten the space. I just
Helen,
want to
Helen,
go
I don't
in.
remember grandma's. I don't think I was ever there either. The one I was talking about that the swingers took over was Tootsie's.
Oh,
They were
Tootsie's.
around for a
Yeah.
long time.
Oh, that sounds like a lesbian bar.
Hmm. Yeah. So I mean, it was a nice place when it first opened, but yeah. Um, but no, I don't. My ex Thursday nights are dart night, so she's out playing darts tonight, and but Oh, a TERF is a trans exclusionary radical feminist.
Yeah, TERFs are. Here's the thing: J.K. Rowling is a TERF. Yeah, J.K. Rowling is a radical feminist who thinks that trans people threaten the feminist movement and want to viscerally and genocidally make all trans women go away. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been to
Yeah.
Mr. Beach in a long time either, Helen. I haven't
Yeah.
been any. I don't go anywhere. The last gay bar I hung out in was View on the Hill. That closed like 10 or 12 years ago, and it was just a little knockabout place, neighborhood. I mean, it was still a gay place, but it wasn't, it wasn't one of the hot spots. It was
Right.
open for a long time though.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole turf thing is it's a very strange space to be in because there are classic feminists who have embraced the trans community. Um, you know, who's the big one?
Thank you. Yeah, I agree, Rick. The same kind of people who want to manage your sexuality are the ones who want to manage what you do with, if you get pregnant and all that kind of shit. It's like
Yep.
they're all totally focused on other people's genitals.
Right. Gloria Steinem is one. Gloria Steinem was a quintessential 70s, 80s era feminist. And she never had a problem with trans people.
I was just going to say, no, I hope you're not going to say Gloria Steinem was a TERF because I was about to
No.
challenge you to a duel out in the front.
I thought he was going to say too.
Yeah, like her and Betty Friedan both were like the trans phenomenon is as valid as a feminist engagement. Now here's the thing: Betty Friedan was the one I think who she even said that it is okay for a male to be a feminist as long as a male being a feminist is against the patriarchy, because that would be, for a guy to be a feminist, he'd have to be against the patriarchy. So if you had a guy that was against the patriarchy, then he could be a feminist. Friedan, I think, is the one. Either him or Andrea Dworkin. But yeah, J.K. Rowling is. That woman could take a walk off a cliff and die right now, and I wouldn't shed a tear. I really wouldn't. Not by a long shot.
It'd be nicer if her and Donald did it hand in hand.
Yeah, right. I agree. So I have a definition for you, Rick, but I'll let Elaine answer that question.
A feminist in 2025? Well, I mean,
Yes.
if I tell you what I think a feminist is, there's probably going to be feminists who disagree with me. But to me, feminism is, you're seeking equality and equity for women and women identified people. So
Yeah. The classic definition of feminism is the socio-political movement that aims to define political and economic and personal social equity between the sexes.
Right. I mean, that's the important thing. Feminism is not hating men. Sexism is hating men. And that's something that a lot of people get confused. Oh, you're a feminist, you must hate men. No.
And here's the thing: and people have asked me why it is that I do this. I have a very keen interest in and understanding both of philosophy and psychology, and so a lot of the things that I've been writing over the time have that bend. By the way, I should point out that in the philosophy channel of Substack, I have consistently appeared between 19 and 30 in the rising ranks. So there are enough people that think that I know what the fuck I'm talking about that I actually rank in those channels. But here's the thing. So feminism is not misandry. We all understand what misandry is. Misandry is the opposite of misogyny. So misogyny is guys that hate women. Misandry is women that hate men. So Rick, restate the question.
Is patriarchy hating men?
Yeah.
Is what he's asking.
Is patriarchy hating men? No, it is not. So yeah. Patriarchy is the rationale that the male gender should be the controlling gender. Well, then, Rick, restate the question. Because I think I know what you're asking, but I'm gonna reserve my judgment. We're all waiting with bated breath for Rick to finish typing. So, you know, a funny thing happened to me on the way to the forum. Is feminism considering that all patriarchy is hating men? That's a very good question. So, I've got a note on this. Let me find it.
I mean, maybe in the sense that someone who supports patriarchy to. Oh, no. No, that is not what being a feminist means at all.
Feminism at its core is about learning and understanding the ways that inequality affect women and men, and remembering that we're all in the same boat. So here's the thing. So that's what feminism is. In 2025, the focus on understanding the equality between the sexes. So the equality between male and female, although really male and female are not the only sexes. There's intersex individuals. I happen to be one of those people, but
yeah, I definitely do not like asshole men who believe the patriarchy is right.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I get accused of that all the time because I'm so rude to the wound sniffers on the sidewalk at Planned Parenthood. It's like, you know, if you there's an old Yiddish proverb to the effect that if you don't want to hear a cat yowl, don't step on its fucking tail, you know? So if you don't want me to be nasty to you, then go home and mind your own business. If that makes me some, I've had them tell me, you know, you're a hateful old woman in the twilight years of your life. Yeah, whatever. Fuck you. You know.
Hey, Linda, do you mind if I drop you out and invite somebody else? I got a thing. I'll bring you back.
Sure, go ahead.
I want to see.
Yes, Helen has seen them call me a bitter old lady, which of course I'm just like so upset.
So to go back to the earlier question, Rick, what is 2025 feminism in regards to? And so the question is the statement is this: in 2025, it's not about understanding the equality between the sexes, but more specifically, emphasizing the intersectionality, understanding how various forms of inequality operate together and exacerbate each other by making and respecting diverse women experiences, identities, knowledges, strengths, striving to empower all women, trans or otherwise.
Well,
to achieve that
equality and equity for all, that would mean, I mean, you can't have equality if it's not for all.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Which is voiced by the opinion that trans women are women, trans men are men, and women are women and men are men. I mean, it's not rocket science. Modern feminism recognizes the barriers faced by different women very greatly, and that women face multiple intersecting forms of discrimination that include racism and ableism and ageism, homophobia and transphobia. And so those are all focuses of modern feminism to erase iteratives of racism and ableism and ageism and homophobia and transphobia and all of the other things that make the nature of equality against both of the sexes and the entire array of genders possible. From a philosophical argument, contemporary feminism, however, seeks to alter economic, civil, and ideological disparities between all of the sexes and genders and those who identify outside of the gender binary. And that's something that people don't really pay attention to. So, all of these male hating, trans hating feminists, and I'm not suggesting that all feminists hate men and trans persons, but there are a number of them that do, are defying the purpose of defining that equality, which I think is important. Which I
Well,
think,
I mean, you yeah. I mean, I'm not going to defend anybody who's attacking men just because they're men any
right,
more than, I mean, that's intolerance and bigoted the same as anything else,
right.
So
Was that
So,
hey, no, and I hope I'm not. It's really hard to type and convey my the meta, right? And what I was just trying to say or ask was a genuine question, which was, it feels like sometimes as a whatever I am, right? I don't even fucking know, but whatever I am, it's hard. I know I'm male somewhere on that end of the spectrum and so forth. But what gets a little hard sometimes is like I'll get on TikTok or Instagram. I'll just go scroll through reels of things and for a while, like when that whole fucking thing with the bear was going on, about, you remember that okay, so that, right, just frame that in your head, and frame me, who is, I come from a universe of women have never been, I mean, my mother, just starting from the time I was, probably embryo level, she just never allowed me to think like in any way that I had an advantage or was in any way ever superior to women at all. And just, if I had any friends or whatever that try to get that shit in my head, she'd beat it the smack out of me. And so that was very early on and very always, right? And then so when I watch these other ones, there's just like this visceral just shit, it's venom that comes out sometimes from women who have been horribly, mistreated, and I understand that, and
I'll be right back.
I'm genuinely
okay,
sympathetic. you know yeah, hi Elaine, you're, oh, there she was all there, she disappeared,
she'll
but
come back.
shit, so it's just okay, so I feel like I want to respond and say, look, I'm not that patriarchal guy who wants to, have you in the kitchen with a spatula and a skirt and all that other shit. That's the last image I'll ever have of, that would be the last image I would ever put onto my own mother, let alone any of the women I've interacted with or been good friends with in my life, right? And I've always had just genuine relationships with women, not object related. It's not like there's, I know guys who do that whole objectification thing, and they need to get their heads seriously re-examined and deconstructed and rebuilt. But I don't come from that, and then I see this visceral, like, anger. So that's really what I was trying to type, was just to say, hey, there's that, and I don't know, being who I am, I don't know how to fairly respond to say, because if I say, well, I'm not like that, then they've already got a whole category built for me, right? It's, oh, you're one of those guys, and it's like, no, I'm not. I'm not anything. I'm just a person. And, so I don't even know how to come at the subject. And if there was an insight to be had in it, I'm here to learn just as much as anybody else is. And I want to hear what thoughts are on it. And that's my honest, humble, whatever it is, I'm open to it. Right. So that's where I'm coming from, if that makes any
No,
sense.
I completely understand, what you're asking.
Oh, good. Because I really feel awkward sometimes wading into the subject. It's just a it's something that I strive to improve. And it's hard to do in social media anyway, because you're always fucking 3 layers of indirection to somebody. You're not talking to them directly, and you're a person behind a keyboard type of thing.
Right.
So that makes it a little tough to have an honest interaction. But that's why I started the whole question of what is feminism 2025, was really it, like you said, it's that intersectionality. That sounds good, because I didn't, when I was growing up in the 70s, 80s, that time, it was, feminism came across to me at that age of my brain, to make it really clear that
Man.
it was about equality of men to women. And now it seems to have evolved, and it seems like your contemporary version, the reason I said 2025 is the contemporary version, is more it's intersectionality. It's like there's differences, and those differences should be celebrated, not condemned or looked down upon or anything like that. So I hope that's I hope that makes more sense to the audience that's there listening to this. I hope you're not all going, Rick, asshole, check.
No. I don't think that.
Okay.
I don't think that. Laura Westbrook, do you think we can try to risk you? I feel like we should try. So we're gonna try. Laura, you should totally try for it, because we're a family here.
Yeah, for
we
sure.
we're a family of people here. So I'm gonna hit the button. But basically, yeah, just like woman bashing men, I don't respond to anymore. Too little time to waste on anybody that's hating. Right. That hate period is bullshit.
Okay.
It really is.
Well, there's hate, and Laura, I hope you can join, because the question I have is about the difference. What is the difference between hate and justified anger? Because I've spent a lot of time reading books and speaking with female friends, but female friends have some hard time articulating this, and I don't know if it's to me because I'm a guy, but they have a harder time talking to me about the anger that comes from waking up in a world where, as a woman, you realize, holy shit, I've got 3,500 years worth of history on my shoulders of men doing this stupid shit of pigeonholing me into this little slot over here. You know what I mean? And they're pissed. They really are. And so I hope that makes sense. That's being angry about something is, I want to offer a sense of, wow, I get where you're coming from, and not be patronizing about it in any way. But at the same time, I feel like I really shouldn't, and I can't, because I'm that guy, or I'm a guy. and and so I want to have a healthier interaction with those with people. So it's not exactly hating. I get what you're saying about hating, but there's also, it seems like, some justified anger.
So let me quantify that.
Yeah.
Because this is something that I think you should probably understand.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the difference between differential anger and hate, there is a very clear divide between the two of those. Hate is a persistent, constant emotion that targets a person or group's existence. That's what hate is. And often hate involves, oh, that's okay, Elaine. Um, you're good, Elaine. Thank you, Elaine. Love you much.
Yes. Love you. Good talking to you.
So, and hate involves a specific, directed, targeted um, destruction or harm to whatever the byproduct is. Differential anger, however, is a situational frustration directed at specific behaviors, actions, or really ultimately systems um, aimed at change rather than elimination. That doesn't make differential anger better than hate. Hate sucks.
Okay.
Differential anger, however, um, depending on how it's channeled, can still seek to affect change in a negative way. Hate seeks to destroy. Differential anger tries to transform, but it's not always positive.
Okay.
One of them is personal and enduring, and the other is contextual and could be constructive, but might not be.
Right. And I really, for the women in the audience, right? And please don't take this the wrong way, Wendy. There's another angle that or perspective I want to add to what you just said, which is I have read probably that same thing, and I've heard that before. I've read variations of it in different books, and yet there seems to be like we're doing this on like it. What am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say simply in plain English is that what's in the books and how people feel, particularly women, about it are, to me, the books are over analyzing it, and the women are not expressing it as bluntly as I would. I don't want to say I would hope. That's not what I mean. It's more of the what's the emotional level reaction that the women here, for example, on this part, like just are the women loading their guns in the audience right now to shoot me because I'm asking about this the way I'm asking, because context matters, right? I want to know more of the emotional thing of does this resonate with the lady? Go ahead. Sorry, I'll shut up and
No. So I just wanted, Laura, I wanted to respond to your comment about justified anger. And there is a directive here that iterates that. Now, bear in mind, in case nobody knows, oh, wait, before I do that, I have to do this. So, Laura, I'm sorry, I can't resist that. Here's what's important. So, justified anger often signals real injustice and can ultimately validate and motivate necessary change. The key to justified anger is channeling that anger constructively. People don't do this, either through advocacy or organizing or dialogue or systemic reform, rather than just destructively seeking a violent solution to the problem. Healthy responses transform anger into an action for positive change. Unhealthy responses let anger consume and corrupt, and then it just turns into hate. But when we talk about male chauvinism as an additional layer to that argument, we're led to believe that feeling safe in conversations is essential, and disengaging when you when you don't is healthy self-preservation.
Okay.
Non-chauvinistic men who genuinely listen and acknowledge privilege and support equality create a space for productive dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Boundaries matter. You have the right to step away from an interaction that feels threatening or dismissive to your experience. I do it all the time because as a trans woman, I viscerally take on layers of hate and aggression from people all the time. All the fucking time.
I can only imagine, right?
I
especially in Georgia. Wow.
I literally will tell you that, tonight I went out in a really fucking hot ass dress, and I looked really, really good. And my partner was like, "Holy shit, Wendy, you look really fucking hot." I didn't necessarily believe that, but anyway, and I mean, I put in a lot of effort for my female presentations because I'm a trans woman and I'm going out and I want to do that. And so, but still, yeah, I still take hate from people. I still get looks. I still get comments. And honest, at 53 years old, Laura, I don't give a shit. My skin is so thick, I literally don't care. I literally do not give a shit. But am I justified to feel angry about that? Yes. But I want the justification of my anger to channel positive solutions to the problem, which is why I get on lives at night and talk to people.
Right.
Because that kind of constructive, advocacy is way better than, throwing Molotov cocktails at somebody's house.
Yeah, and the other interesting part there that you bring up, I think, that plays in to some of the conversations that I've had, and I should probably use examples and specifics, but for right now, just to keep it up at the high level, I've I'm not an idiot to the sense that I neglect the fact, or in other words, I do pay attention to the fact that that female anger responses are way different than male testosterone-driven anger responses in terms of how they come across, and there can be a lot of, I think, there can be a lot of crossed wires in signals of communication that might happen. And that's just a fact, right, of life that happens with all sorts of communication between people and in general. And but the way somebody can get mad about, and let's use patriarchy as an example. I certainly understand the context historically. You and I both study history avidly, and I think we're both, we're into that stuff, and I'm a nerd about it. I still read history books where there's entire sections where my jaw just almost detaches from my face because it's bouncing off the floor in shock of how weirdly controlling and afraid men have been historically of women, to put them in these boxes and containers and so forth, when if you look at just the overall, if you look at the evolutionary importance of what in the grand scheme of at another higher level, if you look at how important women are socially and reproductively and societally and everything else, that's that's the worst possible response for a man to have towards any woman at a societal level, and then at the personal level, to do that to a family, to do that to to do the things that are justified today. You had this response, Wendy, about Christo-fascist. I grew up in two separate forms of the evangelical church, plus being an atheist for a while, plus being a Catholic for a while. So I had the full smorgasbord, right, of all possible things.
and in the one form of the Christian church, it was absolutely looked down upon, unequivocally, that the whole idea of telling women what they could and could not do, or how they could or could not behave, was absolutely, that was just not what Christ would do. So therefore, because they really went down to in that particular church, they went down to the words that were in the New Testament, and they cared about the actual message of Christ. And then the other church was the other way around. They had it completely reversed, and it was all about the ceremony, right? The placing of you in this box, the placing of women in this box. And for that matter, what I didn't like was the placing of me in a box as a man. Like, I was expected to do X, Y, and Z because of my gender, and I fucking hated it. I was like, no, I can't. And that's what got me out of that whole world real quick. So it was just, I was in that latter church I talked about for about a year and a half. I tried to lead some things with the youth group and do it, but at every level of that, and I got kicked out, by the way, that ultimately I got literally not formally excommunicated, but they told me, you're not welcome here, when I got up at a board meeting and said, your whole youth program is fucked in the head. You're generating and elevating a group of young people and young minds to think that women are this way and men are this way, and it isn't that goddamn simple. And I think I said it in pretty much those words. So they didn't appreciate that at all. Plus, they had a much deeper problem with me as a human being. They were like, whatever the fuck you are, you don't belong in this space, so get out. And that was the first time I had like absolutely white hot religious anger pointed right at my head and shot like a gun at me. And I felt that. I mean, I won't lie. I went home, and on the way home I pulled the car over to the side of the road. I lived in a backcountry thing. I pulled the car over the side of the road and I cried for 15 minutes, because this is like, these are people I'd known and I'd thought of a certain way and I developed opinions about, and I was so wrong. I felt like I didn't know, I felt, this sounds maybe weird to people, but I felt like what had just happened was my fault. And it took a couple of years to process that it was not my fault, and that I was not doing something that was, morally wrong, or whatever. And today I have a whole different outlook on that. So, but that was then, right? So I hope that there's at least some thoughts in that, because I've strove, what's the right word, strived to give the women in my life the uplift. My wife, if I just asked her to come over, she'd tell you right now that I'm the biggest promoter of her and her biggest fan in the world, to do anything that she wants to set her mind to. And I will support that, because that's what I signed the fuck up for.
So I have an opinion about that, and um, um, I'm going to touch on a thing Elaine said earlier in the chat to answer that question. And here's the thing: women face an impossible amount of double standard. And that's it.
I think so.
Yeah, nobody's going to argue with me on this. I guarantee you. They're just not. And so, um, you know, um, when women express anger, um, men label that as hysterical or bitchy or emotional, or you're PMSing or whatever, and that's bullshit.
Right.
But when women stay calm, you're a weak and you're a pushover. Men's anger gets labeled passionate or assertive, while women's emotions and anger gets pathologized.
Yeah.
Pathologized. Sorry. Um, and so, and to Elaine's comment, the sweet little honey expectation, it's suffocating. It's dismissive. Um, it does not address women's humanity or their equality in a societal stand. Um, you know, a person's anger and injustice is valid and necessary, and being shamed away from that is fucking bullshit. And
Yeah.
it's disgusting, and I hate it. And so, yeah, I agree, Elaine. The
That
patriarchy is very bad for men.
yeah.
And there's a reason for that. And I've got it right here. Let me go through my notes. You know that Laura, it's very bad, and here's why. There's emotional suppression. So men are taught to avoid vulnerability, uh, crying, expressing fear, and by putting a fear into a person about expressing those emotions causes impulse control problems, suicide rates to go high. That whole boys don't cry bullshit argument mentality
yeah.
creates guys who struggle with mental health and intimate relationships because they can't establish them.
Right.
The patriarchy causes rigid role expectation. So if you're a guy and you don't fit the rigid role expectation that the patriarchy demands, you know, breadwinner, protector, stoic leader, whatever, that creates a crushing amount of pressure on men to accomplish that end.
Yeah.
And
Well, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Please finish your thought there, please.
oh no, when you're a male and you have that pressure and you are incapable of satisfying the requirement of that pressure because you're not a hunter, you're a gatherer.
Right.
And I'm speaking from experience because that's what I was.
Right.
I was not a hunter. And I had members of my family that tried to mold me into a hunter, and I never wanted to be that. I literally, if you read my biographical work, you will find I wanted to be the gatherer. I wanted to be the mother. I wanted to be I wanted to be a woman.
Yeah, and you know, I think that's there's a lot of interesting places the conversation could go just off that one concept and point. But the thing that I, you know, to tie this back into the package, I wanted to wanted to probably stay focused on just for tonight's discussion, because we probably have 1,000, you know, nights just like this worth of discussion to be had that would be very productive for people, you know, who either are looking at the world and going, hey, I see Wendy's perspective through her eyes, or I see Rick's perspective through his eyes, or whatever. I see somebody else's perspective who's down here in the lower half of the screen. That there's a lot to talk about there, right? And it's to me though, the wrapping packaging feature of this thing is the, you know, let's all tie it together back to your comment about the the Christo-fascists or whatever. I still have a mystery in my head of how anybody, man or woman, can read. Now separate the Old Testament over here for a minute, because my fundamental, simple, laughable concept of the difference between the Old and the New Testaments, and I'm sorry if I offend anybody who's religious on the call, is that God got laid between the old and the new, and that it severely chilled out, because that the fear of the retribution and all that other shit just sort of disappeared. And then, so let's just talk about the New Testament. Anybody who reads that stuff and comes away with it is a message of classification and of gender, you know, absolutely must fit this or that. They're for the most part, they're reading things that, first of all, aren't things that Christ is alleged to have said, and they're more into the later, Acts and Corinthians, et cetera. They're into the parts where it's commentary or apologetics for the, what the explanations of what is meant to specific churches and specific places and times. So with that being said, it's like there is not. I am baffled by the packaging that the church can do in turning people into these boxed, patterned, whatever you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be expectations, right? Whether it's patriarchy, which is one of the biggest things I see. That's the vehicle. The church is the vehicle that allows patriarchy to become a generational thing, right next and right behind the family based, passing down from generation to generation. And the two combinations together are just insanely toxic. Back to my original question about how do you even begin to repair that damage with what I believe to be the I got your point on the damage it does to men, but I think that the damage it's created to a gatherer personality over a hunter personality that is, and therefore by association, many more women than men, I think has been profound. And it's like that there are very comparatively few women I've ever spoken with and had an honest conversation with who were not touched in some way by that patriarchal tribal, role pigeoning or whatever you want to call it, because it's so prevalent in our society. And I'm not getting into societal comparisons of us versus somebody else. I'm just saying, wow, how do we expect to function together? It's like there's no fucking mystery to me why. The other day I was researching an article and looking at birth rates around the world. It's not a mystery to me at all why the birth rates in United States, Hong Kong, Korea, China, India, just insert country here, are falling off the cliff everywhere. And it's not all about economics. It's about you got to look at. I imagine, and I've talked to my wife at length about this. She's like, I'm not into the idea of bringing in another kid into this world right now. I just think I couldn't wrap my head around that and doing something like that. And I know there's another side to that says, well, if you parent them right and you do the right things, all that, right? So please understand that it is a personal thing, and I know that, and it's a personal thing for me and my wife. But it's just like we together do not feel like that's what we wish to do. And it's and a part of that for me, a big reason is because of all of the conversations and all of the pent up anger added up into kind of that library in Rick's head of all the conversations I've had with very, very good women who are really trying to, do the right thing and are not fucked up in the head or in seriously, need of anything. They're just working hard at life and struggling through things just like I am. As I can list out, as long as my arm, I can list out just the fuck ups of the last year and a half that I've made and some bad decisions, and it would fill a book. And but that's me, right? So I want to have those productive conversations with women, and I want them to be, not. I want to have that difference between, are you mad at me because I'm a man, or are you mad at me because I as a man just did something really fucking stupid that that I could have done as anybody, another man or a woman. It doesn't matter. So I just that's kind of where I wanted to land on that, was to say I really wish I had a good way to approach the what is feminism, what is the equality and thing. And I think this conversation helped, Wendy. Your definitions really did, and I appreciate the comments. I hope people could
So,
chime in here.
just speaking purely on the psychology of how you fix the damage that is done to the gatherer personality type versus the hunter personality type when faced with patriarchal toxicity. I actually wrote a paper about this years ago. And there's a reason for it. And so for the gatherer personality to recover from the damage that the patriarchy does to that person, how I again have said previously in this conversation, growing up as a child, I was very much a gatherer personality. I did not want to be a hunter. And there were elements of my personality as an oppressed trans person. And I make no bones about the fact that when I was younger, there were very clear signs that I was probably not gendered correctly, or I was not ascribing to the gender for which
you didn't fit the mold, right?
No,
right.
I definitely didn't. And so the way that we therapeutically approach fixing that problem, the outside of the model change and outside of the supportive modalities that you would do to fix those things, validate sensitivity and emotional expression. Recognizing empathy and the ability for a person of that personality type to understand that you experience empathy and cooperation and emotional intelligence and all those other things. Channel the internalized shame about feminine traits. And I had feminine traits when I was a kid, and I was shamed for them and beaten for them, and a whole slew of other things. Like I said, if you've read the biographical work that I've written about myself, you know that my mother was a viciously narcissistic, violent.
Yeah, I remember that in your work. Yeah.
Yeah. So on the flip side of that, there's patriarchal damage that happens to the hunter mentality. And so how do we really address that? Because if we, the Invitation to Change handbook, although I've actually read that before. I think I have a copy of it. But I know.
Let's come back to that because I have another question about that. Go ahead.
So to fix the hunter mentality, so that's aggression rechanneling. You would use competitive drive for positive goals, social justice, protecting vulnerable people, things that would cause you to channel aggression in a positive direction. Redefining conquest. This is a big problem. Shift from conquering people to conquering problems. The conquering mentality that comes from the patriarchy put on top of the hunter asserts that you conquer everyone, and that's not what you do. But here's the big one, and this is one that people almost never recognize, and that's called controlled vulnerability. Strong people can show emotions, can show empathy and vulnerability, and still demonstrate confidence. There are a number of toxically masculine men who do not believe that vulnerability can demonstrate confidence and that it demonstrates weakness, and that's bullshit. And then, emotional intelligence, recognizing that understanding emotions enhances rather than diminishes strategic thinking and effectiveness means that you can embrace those feelings and embrace those emotions and not feel guilty or shamed over feeling them while they have a positive effect. So now, what's your question, Rick?
Well, so yeah, I mean, and I'll introduce this. I think you know this, Wendy, already, but the one thing when I saw the um, was it Laura that had the book?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, when I saw that just flash right, my brain can pick the word addiction out of a sentence from 3 miles away, um, and that's because I'm a recovering addict. I've been I have been, just for those that don't know, I spent a number of years as a high functioning alcoholic and a very heavy prescription drug user. And 5 years ago, six, now it's coming up on six, I stopped that. I got into recovery. And obviously, I've every year that's gone by, I've since that happened, I've incrementally, I'll say, woken back up again to more of the mindset I was able to sustain back in my 20s and early 30s before I started to slide down that long road of badness. And I just wanted, there's you look at my life, I had a, I grew up lower middle class, not dirt poor. My parents were, my dad does professor, mathematics teacher at the community college and at the local state university. My mom was a teacher, low paying job as a psychiatrist. She was, we were not, we lived in the poorest section of the middle class, and I didn't grow up with a abusive dad, or I had a psychologically borderline abusive mother, because she had a very narrow version of CBT, was in the 70s the way, the truth, and the life of psychiatry. And so everything I got dealt, every problem was a hammer in search of a nail, and so that's how I was. That's unfortunately how I was brought up, and so a lot of issues got deferred. They didn't get eliminated, but they got deferred until I exploded in my 20s. Ended up in a just, really, really, really awful place, doing some really awful shit to myself. And then, I've been through a long, long, long recovery of a lot of things that'll continue for the rest of my life till I drop over dead. So all of that said, it's like I when I saw that about recovery or about addiction, I zone in on that really quick, because there's so many relationships between addiction to of what type, to what things, to there's the AA view of it, which, for those of you that don't know, I want to say this right now. If I ever say anything, I never mean a negative thing about AA, and I don't mean anything super positive about AA. I am completely neutral because it really works for a bunch of people. So I do not want to detract from that. But it did not work for me for a variety of reasons, which we can get into later. But so, just having said that caveat, there's a lot of things to that I personally look at and I go, there's a long growth that I always view my recovery. I can't speak for everyone else. I always view mine as a journey that is it touches everything in my psyche from the ground up. It's a rewiring that has to happen almost back to your embryonic self, and then start over again to get things in a better place. And so I have a ton of humility about that. And so when I see that, I reacted because I wanted to understand what Linda's comment was about that book, because I've heard of it, I've not read it, and my stack of unread books is I try to keep up. I read 20 to 25 books a month, and so I am really plowing through a lot of content to stay current on what I write about. And unfortunately, stuff like that doesn't always make it onto my, to my list. And so I wanted to know what the lesson learned was, or what the thing was with respect to addiction, with respect to any of the gender conversation that we're having tonight. And acutely interested in that, because if I can get a faster transfer than reading from somebody who's got some wisdom on it, I'm all ears, and I hope you all know that I'm not here to shove any ideas down anybody's throats. I'm an open bring it on type person. So You said you'd read that, Linda, and I just wanted to know if there was anything in particular that either from the gender or from the addiction, anybody that has read it has any comments on what there is to learn. What would I benefit, having given you the very short version of my story? What is it that I would benefit from? That I'd love to know. That's a please in front of that. Excuse me. It's free online. Okay.
Yeah.
What? Okay. So dumb question, but it went by so fast. I want to write it down. What was the name of the thing? It was what was it called?
The invitation. It's called The Invitation to Change.
Okay.
And it's a pretty. I find it a valid. It's a valid textual reference to addressing a few interesting problems.
Okay. Well, I will absolutely I will absolutely check it out. So
Yeah.
that's good.
I have a physical copy of it, so
if I want to drive down to Atlanta from Cleveland, I can go pick it up.
No. I'll happily.
I was just joking around.
I will happily send you my copy with your Wendy the Druid T-shirt.
Awesome.
Because I am sending you one of those. So.
Yeah. What do I owe you for that? I don't even.
Oh, you don't.
You don't.
You don't. Yeah, you don't. You're a participating member of the publication. So
okay.
You, Miranda, and Wendy Parker are all getting.
Well, I will very, very, very proudly wear that T-shirt anywhere in Ohio, and I do not give a shit if somebody calls me gay, like you said they would, and that's fine with me, because I want you to know, if there's one thing I don't have a problem with, it's being mislabeled gay. I don't take an offense to that. In fact, I will say thank you very much for getting that, putting that point on me. I guess if that's your data point for the day, may you be elevated to a new level of consciousness, whoever just said that to me, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Although I have to say, Rick, we're creeping up on 11 o'clock.
Yeah, shit, I didn't realize. So let's probably get you need to go to bed and
I've been drinking, so yeah, I need.
Yep. Well, hey, I appreciate it. I hope I didn't over.
No,
whatever. So I apologize to anybody out in the audience. 96 folks we got here. Thanks for listening, and thanks for chiming in on things. So I really look forward to reading or watching this episode whenever we get it. Whenever there's no rush, right? Yeah. Back.
No, not you, Linda.
Oh,
Linda.
Okay. I didn't know. Here, take two.
Linda, fuck off. So yeah, I'm gonna bring it down, Rick.
Okay. Well, hey, all have a great night, and you two all take care. Love you. Bye.
Yep. Oh, brother Rick, love brother Rick so much. So with that, I will tell everybody that I've had a bunch of wine tonight, so I'm in a pretty choice mood. But with that, I would tell all of you, thank you. If you're a subscriber to the publication, thank you for being a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Paid subs help. I'm thankful for all of my paid subs. I wouldn't get on live sessions every night to talk to all of y'all. Even when I've been out and drinking wine and I'm summarily drunk as a result, if I didn't love you all, or I didn't want all of y'all to be safe, and I do. So please, all of you, be safe. Stay safe out there. Stay strong. I can't get through all of this bullshit without you guys. We can't get through all this bullshit without each other. There's just the only strength that we have is the strength in unity. And so I am thankful to all of you for that. And so with that, I will tell all of you good night. Rest well, rest peacefully. And I love you all.